Welcome. Thank you for taking the time to tune in to this 2035 Comprehensive Plan virtual workshop. I'm Tammy Rosario, Principal Planner for James City County, and we appreciate your time today. As you'll see through the presentation, the Comprehensive Plan is a vehicle to think about those things we love and might want to change about James City County as we examine our present and probable future conditions, needs, and resources over a wide range of topics, such as demographics, public facilities, population needs, character, parks and recreation, environment, and housing. Our focus today is economic development, transportation, and land use. James City County's adopted plan is the 2009 Comprehensive Plan, which in accordance with state law is general in nature, contains maps, plats, charts, and descriptive information, which shows our long-range recommendations for the general development of the county. Most importantly, though, it's the expression of the public's vision for the county, and that's why it's so important to us that you're participating today. Also in accordance with state law, we're conducting our 5-year review of this plan. Because it is about an 18-month process, there are many more steps to go, but this has been designed as an open and participatory process. So you will still have many opportunities to provide input along the way. Your comments, as well as those collected from the citizen survey, the web, comment cards, and other meetings, will be recorded, validated by the community participation team, and considered in raw and summarized form as a key component of what shapes the revised plan. What we have planned today is a virtual workshop, where we'll go over a community profile or a snapshot of the county, followed by topical overviews for economic development, land use, transportation, followed by a closing summary. Throughout the presentation, the speakers will be asking a series of questions. Follow along on the online questionnaire and complete the questions as they're asked. There will also be a chance at the end to participate in some modified activities about transportation, land use applications, general comments, and identifying special places in James City County. So let's start with our first question. Do you live in James City County? Yes or no? We have 3 geographic areas that we're spotlighting today. The first is Upper County, which includes the communities of Toano, Norge, and Stonehouse, and is generally shown on this map. Next, we have Central County, which includes Jolly Pond Road area, the areas of Newtown and Ford's Colony, as well as the Route 5 communities, all the way to the James River. Finally, we have Lower County, which includes areas such as Grove, Kingsmill, and areas on the south side of Jamestown Road. So which geographic area do you live or work in? Upper County, Central County, Lower County, or I don't know. Next, I'd like to introduce Jose Ribeiro with a snapshot of James City County.
My name is Jose Ribeiro, and I'm a planner for James City County. Before we get into topics such as economic development, land use, and transportation, I'd like for you folks to take a moment and think about the general characteristics of our community. Things such as population, for instance. How many people live in the county? How many of us will be here in 10, 20 years from now? So a question for you folks. How many years have you lived in James City County? Less than 1 year? 1 to 5 years? 6 to 10 years? 11 to 20 years? Over 20 years, the entire life? I do not live in James City County, or if you rather not respond, prefer not to respond. Well, here's an interesting concept. Geographic mobility, migration, has played a big role in the county's population growth and will continue to be a large influence on projections for populations. Well, population growth. The line you see sloping up graphically represents the continuous population growth in the county between 1970 and 2010. This growth has been influenced by new residential development and the development of our economy. As of the last decennial census count, we were 67,009 in 2010, which represents 71% of the total historic Triangle population. Did you know that between 2000 and 2010, the county had the 5th highest population growth rate in the state, the highest outside Northern Virginia? Also, between 1990 and 2000, the county had the 8th highest population growth rate in the state. So it's going to be very interesting to see if this growth pattern continues in the upcoming year. So here's a tough question. What will James City County's population be in 2040? 68,000, over 70,000, over 104,000, over 136,000, or some other number? Well, the answer is we don't know for sure, but it's likely that we'll fall in a range. The graphic represents population projections for the year 2020, 2030, and 2040 from 2 different agencies, using 2 different methodologies and 2 different results. To project change in population over time is not an exact science. It requires a lot of assumptions. That is why it is appropriate to talk of population projections as ranges. Based on the population projections made by these 2 different agencies, we can estimate that our population in 2040 is likely to fall within the range of 104,000 and 136,000. So here comes another question. How old are you? 19 years or younger, 20 to 34 years old, 35 to 54 years old, 55 to 64 years old, 65 years old or over, or I prefer not to respond. Well, we're not trying to be impolite here, but we just want to bring up a point because age is another demographic element which is used to better understand the characteristics of a community. For instance, what is the average age of our labor force? Do we need more schools for our kids? Here we see a breakdown of age into different groups, and we can also compare the change of the different age groups over time. In 2010, the largest segment of our population was between the range of 34 and 54 years old, followed by 19 and younger, and by the 65 and older population. In 2040, the largest segment of our population will be represented by the 65 and older population. The aging of our population appears to follow a national trend, but in a magnified way. Our senior population is expected to grow more significantly than the rest of the MSA, which is a metropolitan statistical area, the state, and nation. Well, geographic focus. This map here shows 2 census tracts with some demographic socioeconomic information about each. James City County has 11 census tracts. Where we are here tonight at Toano Middle School, it is located within census tract 804.02. And that is the information you see on the slide. Total population for the census tract is 6,353, and the median age is 45.4 years. For the Central County, where we are here today at King of Glory, it is located within census tract 802.06. Our total population is 9,402, and the median age is 49 years old. And for the Lower County, we are here tonight at Little Zion Baptist Church, and it is located within census tract 801.2, where total population is 3,696, and the median age is 35.6 years. So lastly, a few words on demographics. Demographic and socioeconomic characteristics are always changing, and these changes carry implications to all of us. The graying of our population, the changes in size of households and education attainment are an example of these demographic and socioeconomic characteristics and how this can influence other aspects of our community, such as economic development, land use, and transportation. All right, folks, so now I'll pass it along to Jason, who will be talking about economic development.
Thank you, Jose. My name is Jason Person. I'll be giving the economic development presentation this evening. Just as Jose mentioned during the demographics presentation with changing demographic trends, looking at our current economic development pictures and trends helps us consider where we are and where we want to be. James City County is a unique place and destination, making it a desirable community to visit, live, and work. The uniqueness of the community is an important asset which can be used as an effective strategy to promote and nurture economic development in the county. In order to provide for a diverse, competitive, and prosperous economy, James City County continues to develop economic development strategies and policies which are sound and comprehensive in scope. This presentation will help you understand how the county has changed since 2009, as well as allow for an opportunity to provide feedback on potential economic development strategies for this comprehensive plan update. All of these are sections that are currently addressed in the economic development section of the comprehensive plan. We won't be covering all of these topics in depth this evening, but rather we will focus on the current trends we're seeing in the community and how they may affect our strategies and actions as we move forward. Our local economy is not isolated. We are subject to national trends, but we can measure ourselves relative to others and attempt to protect or improve our position through our actions and policies. On this chart, you'll notice the unemployment of James City County is shown in green at the bottom of the chart. Similar stats for Virginia and the United States are also shown. You'll notice that James City County is at the bottom. Currently, unemployment in James City County is at 5.2%. We were at 5.6% in 2009. James City County currently has 26,985 jobs. Most recently, we saw our largest drop in jobs between 2008 and 2009. However, if you take out the spike in jobs from 2008, you'll see our job growth has generally trended upward throughout the years. Overall, James City County and York County have fared better than other localities in the Hampton Roads area, and even exceeded state job growth during the past 10 years in terms of percentage. You'll note from the table on the bottom that since 2009, James City County has actually seen an increase in jobs, whereas other localities directly adjacent to us have been declining. Economy relies a great deal on tourism, healthcare, and retail, as reflected in the employment by industry chart that you'll see on this page. We seek to keep those industries strong, but also to diversify and attract jobs to our labor force. I'd also like to point out that manufacturing, number 5 on the list at 1,659 jobs, is something that the county is very proud of. We have a number of large industrial users in James City County, including Anheuser-Busch InBev, Lumber Liquidators, Ball Metal in Owens, Illinois, just to name a few. This is a list of our largest public and private employers in James City County. Thinking back to the last chart, you'll notice that retail, healthcare, industrial, manufacturing jobs are all represented on the top 10 private users. As we get into discussions about where folks work, please let us know whether your place of employment is within James City County. This chart shows wages, average weekly wage for James City County. You'll notice we're generally in the middle of the chart, slightly higher than Williamsburg and York County, but lower than some of the other localities in the area. I'd like to point out that Surry County currently has the highest at $1,400 average per week. That is generally because they have relatively few jobs. The ones they do have are associated with the nuclear power plant, and they generally command higher weekly wages. This chart shows commuting patterns of folks in James City County. About 7,489 people both live and work in James City County. Approximately 16,440 live in James City County but work outside of the county limits. A majority of those folks work in the city of Williamsburg, Newport News, or York County. Folks are coming to James City County for jobs from Newport News and York County predominantly. This can help explain the next table that shows James City County actually has the highest per capita income over a 12-month period of all the localities in the area. To me, this means that some of the higher paying jobs are located outside the county, but that a number of people choose to live in James City County. Our 2009 Comprehensive Plan Economic Development Goal states that we want to build a diverse, balanced local economy that supports basic needs of all segments of the community and contributes positively to the quality of life. Our goals, strategies, and actions help guide the county's policies and decisions to help on the path to that goal. Since 2009, our Office of Economic Development, Economic Development Authority, as well as Planning, Parks and Recreation, and Communications divisions have all made progress in this area and will continue to be important as we draft the changes toward 2035. Some of the accomplishments that we would like to talk about today include a number of expansions to existing as well as new industrial facilities, such as the Lumber Liquidators expansion, and a number of new projects in Jacobs Industrial Park, a sports tourism and marketing outreach effort that has helped with the Rev3 Triathlon, as well as the LPGA event, all represent positive sports tourism opportunities. We've seen a number of redevelopment projects as well in James City County, including Colony Square Shopping Center, where the Restore went, as well as the Candle Factory redevelopment at the intersection of Croker and Richmond Road. So thinking about 2035, our economic development goals and actions attempt to build on our community strengths, key industries, quality of life, and workforce, all while positioning us for the future. We anticipate having additional information in the comprehensive plan about our rural economic development strategies, as well as focusing on redevelopment, which I've already spoken about a little bit. Staff and the Economic Development Authority have worked toward that end, but there is always more that can be done. So new ideas and possible directions are being pondered. Certainly they will involve retention and attraction and redevelopment of businesses. One of the interesting points from this slide is the importance of strengthening our broadband access. Obviously, through the years, technology has become more important to our lives, but in order to maintain a competitive advantage with other localities in terms of providing an attractive product, we will have to focus on our available infrastructure. Just as roads, water, and sewer service have been important in the past, technology infrastructure cannot be overlooked. Similarly, identifying economic opportunity areas in the county will be important. We only have a finite amount of land in James City County, so choosing the most appropriate locations for development is important. As we'll see with the upcoming land use presentation, you have to be careful that industrial development is situated in a way that is less impactful to residential development, but that also has access to strong road networks. The following question deals with the Business Climate Task Force report that was first presented in the 2009 Comprehensive Plan as a way to improve the business climate in the county. One of the main tasks of the BCTF was to identify qualities, characteristics, and categories of business preferred and propose policies, programs, and ordinances that would attract, retain, and expand those businesses. All of these attributes were addressed in the previous comprehensive plan, so before you vote, let me read you a brief summary of each option. Quality jobs would include fair pay, year-round full-time employment. Community values would be respectable corporate citizens that enhance the quality of life, use local resources, and promote community values. Fiscal contribution would be those that generate local tax revenue, recycle local spending, and support other local businesses. Environmental sensitivity are clean, low impact on natural resources. And finally, stability, which are headquarter locations, which are typically less affected by macroeconomic changes. Finally, our last question about economic development this evening: which actions should have the highest priority for encouraging redevelopment? The first would include identifying and promoting areas for redevelopment. This could include higher densities, expedited approvals, and identifying regulatory barriers. B, create incentive-based programs. This could include the waiving of fees or tax breaks. C, have the county actively engage in getting sites shovel-ready. This would include making sure that all development plans are already approved and the developer would just be able to commence construction. D would include other. If you have other ideas on how to promote redevelopment, please write them down. Or E, the county should not promote redevelopment. And now to speak about land use, Ellen Cook.
All right, thank you, Jason. My name is Ellen Cook. My portion of this presentation is about the land use section of the comprehensive plan. What you've heard from the other presentations is that growth is headed our way, and considerations of trends and goals for the other topic areas are influences on land use, and vice versa. Hence, the land use section attempts to tie it all together as it relates to future development. In the comprehensive plan land use section text, the topics that are covered include an examination of development trends, policy discussion and statements on planning tools such as methods to analyze the impacts of growth and mitigate them, the land use map and designation descriptions, and other policies for specific types of development. As discussed earlier, the overall amount of residential growth in the county has been very high, but the rate in the last 5 years has been slower in keeping with the overall housing market during the recession. Fewer new developments have been proposed. However, several projects, such as the 271-unit Village at Candle Factory at the corner of Richmond and Croker Roads, and the 164-unit Summer Place development on Jolly Pond Road, have received approvals. As new developments receive approvals, part of the ongoing work for the land use section is to track the progress of developments as the new residential units are actually constructed and occupied. Since the last comprehensive plan, staff has made progress at better tracking development build-out, as you can see on this map, which helps us to geographically project the likely areas where growth will occur in future years. Within the larger neighborhoods alone, we have an estimated inventory of approved units not yet completed of approximately 9,200 inside the primary service area and 433 outside. Please note that this information helps us look at where the already approved development would occur. Once a development is approved, such as through approval of a rezoning proposal, there is typically little control that the county has over the rate at which the new units are built and occupied. In addition to residential trends, the land use section text also looks at commercial and industrial trends in the county. In recent years, there has been substantial retail, commercial, and office growth in the county. Jason mentioned some specific examples in his presentation, and some others, such as the Food Lion and CVS in Norge and Newtown Settlers Market, are shown here. So what tools does the county have to shape and direct this residential and commercial growth? The major tool is the county's land use map, a guide that designates the most appropriate future uses and development intensities of properties. The map has a set of designations, which you can see at the right, which categorize these uses and intensities. When properties are developed, staff evaluates the proposed development plan against the land use designations when preparing staff recommendations. The map also shows another key tool, which is the primary service area, or PSA. The PSA directs growth to where a higher level of public facilities and services are planned. The PSA seeks to accomplish a number of goals, such as encouraging efficient utilization of public facilities and services, like water and sewer and roadways, increasing public benefit per dollar spent, and protecting the viability of agricultural, forestal, and other rural land uses. The PSA has been a successful tool at directing growth. Approximately 87% of the county's existing residential units are located inside the PSA. This slide shows the types of development and land uses that result from these land use map designations. One thing to note is that each area that is designated mixed use on the plan has a specific description prepared for it in the text, with a more targeted set of recommended uses and intensities. This is why some mixed-use areas result in a more integrated mix of residential and commercial, like Newtown, while others may focus on certain recommended primary uses, like light industrial. One of the land use designations doesn't yet have a picture I can show you because it doesn't exist on the ground yet. It is a new designation, Economic Opportunity, which was created during the 2009 Comprehensive Plan update. One area of the county was designated Economic Opportunity, or EO, which is shown here in purple, which is roughly bounded by Richmond Road, Croker Road, I-64, and the James City-York County boundary line. The 2009 Comprehensive Plan also shows a proposed extension of Moortown Road through this area. The text of the EO description is somewhat flexible, focusing on maximizing the economic development potential of the area and encouraging development with certain attributes, such as positive fiscal contribution, quality jobs, and supporting local economic stability. If you had a preference for what the picture of this area would look like in a future comprehensive plan PowerPoint in terms of the development form, what would it be? A mix of uses including commercial and residential with a medium scale of buildings such as in Newtown. B, a mix of uses including adjacent industrial and manufacturing and a larger scale of buildings such as in City Center in the Oyster Point section of Newport News. C, primarily an office park such as Innsbrook in Hanover County. D, primarily a light industrial area, such as Stonehouse Commerce Park. Or E, none of these, some other development pattern would be desired. There is a lot of work in future master planning, including the current ongoing Moortown Road corridor study, that will need to take place in this area in preparation for future development. I've shown the land use designations on the map for the county as a whole, but I also wanted to point out that different parts of the county have different proportions of the land use categories. In comparison with the county overall, the Upper County has proportionately more rural land and mixed use, and has the only area designated economic opportunity, as just discussed. Much of the mixed use designation in the Upper County is located at the Stonehouse development, or the Barnesville or Croker I-64 interchanges. Central James City County is most similar to the county overall, with roughly similar proportions of most designations. With rural lands to the west, the area to the east adjacent to the city of Williamsburg is the core of the county's larger residential neighborhoods, including Ford's Colony and Powhatan Secondary. Lower James City County has very little rural land since the majority of the land is located within the primary service area, with proportionally more low-density residential, general industry, limited industry, due to the presence of industrial parks like James River Commerce Park and Greenmount, and federal, state, or county land due to the presence of the Naval Weapons Station and Fort Eustis in this area of the county. This area also includes the only land designated as airport for the Williamsburg-Jamestown Airport. During each comprehensive plan update, there is an opportunity to change the land use designation of a property or add or remove property from the primary service area. Because the land use map is such an important tool in directing the location, type, and intensity of growth, taking into account facility and infrastructure needs, and considering community desires, any changes to the map are evaluated very carefully. The process, which is outlined here, includes technical review to look at potential impacts, as well as opportunity for public comment in the lead up to Planning Commission review and Board of Supervisors action. This slide shows all of the proposed changes to the land use map designations that the county has received and will be considering during this update process. There have been 8 requests for changes from property owners, and 2 other sets of changes are being initiated by county staff. This slide shows the designation change requests that have been submitted in the Upper County. They include property owned by the Hazelwood family at 9400 Barnes Road, property owned by the Taylor family at 8491 Richmond Road, property owned by Gary Massey at 7809 Croker Road, property owned by Colonial Heritage at 499 Jolly Pond Road. There is also property at Fire Station 1 on Forge Road, which is the subject of a staff-initiated designation change. This slide shows the designation change requests that have been submitted in Central James City County. They include property owned by Powhatan Enterprises at 4450 Powhatan Parkway, property owned by Stat Services, Inc. at 13 Powhatan Springs Road. This area also contains the 2 groups of staff-initiated changes that will clean up designations in the vicinity of Newtown and Forest Colony, and will acknowledge some land that has been added to several public facilities. This slide shows the designation change requests that have been submitted for the Lower County. They include property owned by Zentera Kingsmill Property at 8515 and 8581 Pocahontas Trail, and property owned by BASF at 8961 Pocahontas Trail. As mentioned in the previous presentation, the land use section also has a set of goals, strategies, and actions, or GSAs, to guide implementation. The goal for the land use section is shown here. As we've discussed, the land use section needs to take all of the other topical areas and bring them together. There have been a number of items accomplished since 2009 that originated in whole or in part from the land use GSAs. In terms of GSAs related to the area that is designated rural lands, the county conducted a study of the feasibility of starting a transfer of development rights program, continued to examine zoning regulations for this area, including holding several discussion sessions, and was awarded an agricultural and forestal industries development grant to enhance rural economic development activities. In terms of GSAs related to engaging in planning efforts related to our regional context, the county worked with York County and the City of Williamsburg on a coordination document. This document looks at cross-jurisdictional use of roads and public facilities and ongoing development or potential for development at the county's borders. Part of the coordination was drawing together existing and future land use maps that use a common language and colors so that planners, developers, and citizens can better understand what is planned. In terms of GSAs related to changes in the zoning ordinance, the ordinance was updated to create a new residential redevelopment district to promote redevelopment projects, include more flexibility with regard to which uses needed special use permits, as well as streamlining the approval process for certain types of cases, and address compatibility of uses with respect to size, scale, and location, and encouraging the provision of more meaningful open space in the cluster overlay, residential, and multiple use districts, much of which was a result of citizen input in 2009. In terms of GSAs related to ensuring that proposed development provides sufficient information to document its impacts as part of ensuring that the impacts are mitigated, new tools and guidelines have been created for fiscal impact, environmental constraints, and traffic study documentation. Finally, in terms of GSAs related to tracking of the impacts of development proposals in a comprehensive and cumulative manner, as mentioned earlier, staff has updated its tracking methods and now creates annual updates so future development can be better projected. Looking forward, there is still a lot to accomplish, and we anticipate continuing to implement the 2009 GSAs, perhaps adding language related to rural economic development and redevelopment to coordinate with the economic development section. We also anticipate continuing to focus on the process of assessing impacts from growth and the process of coordinating with our neighboring localities and the region where the county can realize benefits, such as transportation planning. On that note, I'll pass the baton on to Carol Collins for a discussion of transportation topics.
My name is Carol Collins. I'll be discussing the transportation component of the comprehensive plan with you today. One of the things that's a little bit different about the transportation component is in addition to the internal effort to update the plan, there's a collaborative effort that must take place between the county and the Virginia Department of Transportation. The department looks for consistency with projects between the county's plan and their long-range transportation plan. In addition to VDOT review, what happens is projects that are identified by the county will also be integrated with the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization's long-range transportation plan. So it's a little bit of an additional layer, if you will, but for a collaborative consistency, looking at the region and statewide improvements that need to be taken into account. It also becomes important because funds are limited. There's a competitive nature to priority projects getting into those long-range transportation plans and funds getting allocated to what the county determines as priority projects. One other thing about transportation is that we can probably, with all honesty, say it impacts our lives every day. And we can all probably fairly quickly formulate or share an idea where the transportation system is functioning well or where there are areas for improvement. A couple tools of the trade as we think about the comprehensive plan. Public involvement. We do go through an extensive public involvement, public outreach process That includes activities such as these, going out to the public, meeting with the public, hearing in person what people's different ideas, thoughts are about the transportation system. The county also offers a website, a comprehensive plan hotline, and provides an email address if folks just want to send in their ideas, thoughts to a random email address. In addition to the public involvement or public outreach, other steps that take place with a comprehensive plan include a needs assessment, which is essentially an evaluation and assessment of the existing system, from streets and highways to bicycle and pedestrian accommodations to the public transportation services. As we move through the existing needs, we get into future demand. And you've heard previously some discussions about population growth, economic development opportunities, and land use. And those become factors as in the transportation portion of the plan, we look for what the future demand may be on the existing transportation system. As we look at future demand and understand what those projects are, there's different policies that come into play that can help address or extend the life of projects, such as access management, which can enhance safety and improve efficiency of roadways, to complete street considerations with policies as new developments come online, and a policy, if you will, to how users should be accommodated with different roadways, to interconnectivity, which influences site design, to corridor visions that define, the functional classification of the roadway, but also how that roadway should complement surrounding area land uses. From a streets and highways standpoint, here's some existing capacity deficiencies in the historic triangle area with 164, some of the secondary streets throughout the county, as well as a portion of 199. We talked about future capacity deficiencies. This is another graphic prepared by the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization that reflects 2034 traffic volume projections on the existing roadway network. Here, as we touched on, and you've probably heard recently, the desire to widen I-64 from its existing 4-lane section to a 6-lane section. Other portions with Croker Road to the north and 199 portions that look like, from a level of service standpoint, operation standpoint, will be needing improvements in the future. The secondary road priorities. This is a great representation of the county's efforts since the last transportation plan, or the comprehensive plan update. In 2009, priorities were established for Ironbound Road, Centerville, intersections with Jolly Pond and Long Hill Road, as well as the Old News Road safety upgrade. We can point and look back to those projects being completed as a part of that process. And as you look into the column with 2014 priorities, there's a new list and a new focus for the county to move forward on. There's also primary road priorities with Pocahontas Trail, or the Route 60 relocation project, Skiffs Creek Connector, and the multimodal corridor improvements. But there is a plan, and the need for a plan is what helps the county pursue those funding allocations and take action. Other areas that we'll discuss at these activities will be the opportunities to identify where there's a need for safety enhancements. From a bicycle standpoint, is it additional signage or the dedication of a bike lane along an existing roadway, to pedestrian push buttons with pedestrian displays, countdown displays to let pedestrians know they can safely cross the street, to some access management or modification of traffic operations at intersections in an effort to avoid conflicts at signalized intersections to enhance overall safety through the intersections. Along with that, there's opportunities to provide feedback and input on bicycle accommodations where they're appropriate throughout the county or where there might be needs for improvement. It also, as you fill out your comment cards, if you can describe what those accommodations might look like, if it's as simple as a sharrow within the existing travel lane, or if it's truly is a dedicated bike lane within the roadway, or even those out-of-road types of facilities with a multi-use trail, because there's some that just aren't comfortable riding in roadway, nor should they have to ride in the roadway. The bikeways map. Here's a reflection of the existing bikeway road network throughout the county, as well as proposed improvements to those bike routes throughout the county. But this map is a product of an exercise such as tonight, where you all have the opportunity to identify some needs that are out there today and/or add where things or gaps should be closed or improved within that bicycle component of the county's network. Pedestrian accommodations. This is the pedestrian accommodation master plan. Similar to the bike plan, reflects where there are there's an existing network of sidewalks and/or multi-use trails throughout the county. It's also a reflection of where there are proposed improvements to the pedestrian network throughout the county. For instance, trying to identify shortfalls as the image to the right, where the sidewalk stops, but an opportunity to close those gaps and identify where the pedestrian network can be improved to better accommodate mobility for pedestrians between activity areas throughout the county. In addition to that, public transportation services, looking for input on such things as bus stop locations. And when we say bus stops, maybe it's a shelter that might be needed, or even a hard stand to accommodate those waiting on the bus, to where route services are provided today, where there might be an enhancement to route services, to additional types of services, if it's on-demand or paratransit type services, to better serve the community. As we talked about a policy, one of the policies is access management, which is essentially the planning and management of intersections along a corridor. Intent there, again, is to enhance safety, improve the efficiency of operations along a corridor, but is more of a policy that can be implemented initially at this level of the plan and becomes more of a design feature as roadway projects move forward. Complete streets is another policy that can be adopted by the county and incorporated. What is a complete street? Complete street is essentially a roadway that's designed to accommodate all users safely within a transportation corridor. To accommodate the pedestrian, the bicyclist, the motorist, and the transit, to accommodate them safely, and that includes all ages and abilities. Ironbound Road is an example of a recent project that was completed that is a reflection of complete streets, where your traditional travel lanes to accommodate the motorist, a dedicated bike lane within the roadway, a multi-use trail along the roadway with landscape buffer in between that trail and the road. But it's a good example of what that looks like out within the county and staying in line with that policy. Interconnectivity is a reflection of design and mobility coming together, where there's a focus on providing mobility between different types of land uses and for different types of modes within a site, so that the traveler doesn't always have to exit the site to get to a different land use or a different destination. Corridor visions, as was touched on briefly, the corridor vision, there's a list of different types of roadway functional classifications, from I-64 limited access high-speed facility to a Route 5 Jamestown Road types of roadways, slower speeds, slower volumes. But with corridor visions, it's a matter of defining the functionality of the roadway and its intent, but also how that roadway should also complement the surrounding area land uses that it's serving. Couple examples are Moortown Road up in the upper part of the county, Ironbound Road, Long Hill Road through the central part of the county, and then Route 60 to the south. There's a process and steps to funding projects. As I mentioned briefly, that does involve interaction with the Department of Transportation, but as a part of the transportation component, those steps include identifying needs, prioritizing those needs, and as those needs get prioritized, provides the county with a position to pursue applicable funding sources, and those range from federal funding sources to private funding sources. And as those funding sources get sought and secured, it allows the idea of a planning thought need for improvement to go to implementation. The 2009 Comprehensive Transportation Goal was to provide citizens, businesses, visitors of James City County with an efficient, safe, and attractive multimodal transportation system that reinforces or is consistent with the goals and land use patterns of the comprehensive plan. That seems and should be a goal that continues to move forward as a part of the 2014 update to the comprehensive plan. Now we've got an opportunity for you all to weigh in on your thoughts about the transportation system. How would you rate the overall transportation system in James City County? The options are excellent, good, fair, poor, and other. How would you rate the condition of the roads? How would you rate traffic flow? How would you rate traffic safety? How would you rate pedestrian accommodations? How would you rate bicycle paths? Which of the following do you believe should be our highest transportation priority? Maintenance, bicycle paths, sidewalks and paths, public transit, safety improvements, traffic congestion relief, constructing new roads, other. What's next?
Thank you so much for your attention and participation today. As you can see, this is quite a large amount of information to weigh through carefully on just these 3 topics alone. Here's how we're going to use the feedback that you and others have provided. The Citizen Participation Team will collect all the input received today and through other channels. These comments will be synthesized and presented to the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors. Meanwhile, the planning staff will review all of the information and develop a citizen input summary that will serve as the introduction to each of the comprehensive plan sections, which will guide the development of the goals, strategies, and actions for each of the plan elements.
We have 4 more optional questions for you to answer. If you're interested, please read the following slides and answer on the questionnaire. Thank you for participating. If you have questions or further comments, please contact the Planning Division.